Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last webinar this year. I'm really happy to be here with Annika.
Hi everyone. Good to see you.
Yeah, and today we are talking about galaxies, galaxy class, the Milky Way. I'm Milan. I'm based in Paris. I'm one of the two presidents of Intersection Group. And Annika, you want to just say who you are?
Yeah, I'm Annika. I am. I don't know what I am. I've been within closely working with the Intersection Group and Milan for many years. And my day job is I'm a business designer and architect at Scania, soon to be the Triton Group, where we do a lot of heavy trucks and transportation solutions, and we definitely need maps to understand how we do that in the best way. So shortly about me.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about maps today. And yeah, we are quite ambitious. So what you see here behind is the Milky Way, our galaxy. And it's not easy to find yourself around there because, if anyone can say where exactly we are, you have an advantage because this is just a guess. Because we are in this mess, swirling around. We cannot see everything. We cannot zoom out. We cannot travel to other places easily. It's too far away. Everything we see is the past, and so on. So we feel it's a good metaphor for a situation that we are in as designers, as architects in many enterprise situations. Because it's similar. A lot of things are dark matter, right? We can't really see them. We can't explain everything. We need to rely on our telescope and on our mapping capabilities. And so, this is so we know that this situation, trying to figure out where you are in the Milky Way, is not necessarily every day in an enterprise, but this is.
Yes, this is definitely, and this is some slides that we have had with us for quite some time, but I think we all recognize the situation when you're in a meeting. There are a lot of people there with different backgrounds, and somebody presents something really enthusiastic, describing, I don't know, an opportunity, a challenge, problem. I don't know, it could be any topic. And the minute the person stops, or potentially even when the person is talking, there is things going on in people's heads. So let's see what that could be. Exactly. So while this person is talking, or once that person has done their sort of conclusion and potentially a pitch, there will pop up other things in the other heads of the people around. Somebody might have this process view and thinking of whatever that person presented. How does that fit? Someone else might be really tuned into the latest strategy documents and really thinking, this is not what we identified as priority areas in the latest strategy pitch or whatever. We might have someone from the product portfolio or product office looking at what's already in there and saying, yeah, right, this could be a brilliant thing for early 2029. Or we have the organization aspects. I think we could add on these things. It could be people more closely to the customers with customer tasks or journeys or different brand topics. I mean, there are so many aspects of an enterprise, and it's really hard to find common ground. And it's not like any of these views are wrong. It's just different ways of looking at the same thing. And what do we do with that? So if we have the next topic, we have a new colleague saying, I come from Fiumicino near Rome in Italy. Suddenly something else happens in our heads. There is a shared reference, and it's not that we're seeing exactly the same picture, but we're seeing it from a shared geography. So somebody hasn't been to Europe or doesn't know that much about Europe, but probably can sort of pinpoint Italy is a European country. Or you know a bit more, you know that Italy is in south, looks like a boot. Or you know more, or you might even have sort of wandered the canals and enjoy the views. So the point of this is we have established a shared relation to a geography upon which we then put this information of where this guy comes from. And the core question, can we work with this? I mean, we're good at making mental models and mental maps. Is that something we can take with us? What do you say, Milan?
Yeah, and so this model is not intuitive necessarily, right? So let me show you this map, for example. Can you see where we had our last conference? And if I tell you our last conference was in Rome, actually quite close to Fiumicino, where the new colleague is from. Maybe I just show you this map and say, see, this is where our last conference was. And you're like, phew, where was it? And I mean, it's deliberately tough for you because this map goes against the conventions, right? So the maps that we are used to are conventions. Sorry, Australians, you're usually not in the middle and up. And usually, well, it helps already if we encode a bit better what is what, right? So if you can see what is water and what is land, but still all the shapes look strange because you just don't recognize this map usually unless you're used to this one. And so, I did this at our last workshop in Rome at the conference. I asked people to point where we are, and it took a few minutes actually to see where Rome actually is on this map. So just to say, these maps that we are using, geographical maps, are learned and they are conventions. They are not natural, and they could be different. And unlike the planet, enterprises are, in terms of elements to be depicted, a bit more messy. So there are fewer, there's fewer common ground on the maps that we use. Thank you, Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, maps do not only tell us something about what is being mapped, but also about the people mapping. So there's just a very recent XKCD comment about what your favorite map projection says about you. If you use the normal Mercator one, you're not really into maps. Maybe you like really strange ones, and they might be actually more accurate. Or you are very clever and you say, well, it should be a globe because the Earth is round. There are different ways to map the planet, and there are many, many different ways to map enterprises. And why would we do that in the first place, right? So many other models and graphs and diagrams and spreadsheets and everything that Annika mentioned in the beginning. And so the reason is, according to Simon Wardley, that maps have certain advantages. So if you are the leader of Greece and you have a problem, which is the Persians are going to invade, you can take it on like a manager and make a SWOT, right? And say, our strengths, we are well trained. Our weaknesses, the rest of the Greeks aren't. Threats, Persians, get rid of us. Opportunities, get rid of the Persians. This is a management tool that many of you know. Or you could use a map, right? So you could say, the Persians are coming from up here. This is Greece. We want to defend Greece. What can we do? Okay, we send some army here. We send the navy here, and so we can make a little block them here, take advantage of this situation here. So it's visual, it provides context, it has an anchor, position has meaning, movement has meaning. The different components are encoded. You see what is water, what isn't, and so on. So these are things that Simon Wardley says differentiate a map from a graph. Now, many of the maps that we make in enterprise design, in enterprise architecture, and service design, and so on, are, according to him, rather graphs. Even we call them maps, like customer journey maps or capability maps. But never mind, just saying, why would we actually try to establish a geography similar to this kind of spatial geography for an enterprise? Is to give us similar clues about tactical or strategic decisions and just show what's going on. And so the first step to come up with an enterprise geography is to take a napkin and try to draw the enterprise. Yes. And it sounds daunting, but this is exactly what we are doing now. So we have our coffee, We have our napkin, and we see here a basic idea of what this map could look like. And it starts in the middle with why the enterprise exists and what is going on. So let's look into this loop a little bit closer.
Yeah. So like you said, Milan, we need to have some kind of geography aspect. And as you said, and you showed with your examples, the way we look at normal maps are very, very well trained eyes that look at this, because we have seen them so many times. We have agreed upon them. We've been in school and we have been taught how this is done. And now we would like to see, okay, can we find a geographical dimension that will be relevant for a company? And we see that what's going on in the enterprise is what we call the enterprise core story. And that could be, that is things that is happening over and over again and that we want to be good at. So if we look at this very simplified example, we have the loop so that we can sort of get a thing of really showing how things are being done over and over again and not just done and then forgotten. So this cycle is an important one. But if you take the first one here, in our little example here, we have a company that comes up with ideas, product ideas based upon things. We produce them. We sell them to our customers. We have some kind of agreements. I don't know, could be channels, web, could be stores, could be, I don't know, business sales, whatever. And then we ship them, then we get paid. And in the end, we make analysis and try to figure out how well did this work. And the thing is, we take another route. Based upon the learnings, we start again. So with this little example, we have kind of established geography saying that everything that has to do with our development and innovation will be in the left lower corner. And everything that is to do with our deliverables, and how we ship, logistics, I don't know, warehouses, with sort of goods that are to be sent out to customers, is in the diagonally other part of the map, which would be the upper right corner. And already by this one, we can have some kind of discussion and dialogue about what's going on. So this is the core of how we do enterprise maps like the Milky Way, because every position has a meaning. And if we agree upon that, there is so much that we do not need to tell. We just know. But to be able to have this knowledge, we need, of course, to agree within our enterprise that we see our world like this. But the core is here, the enterprise story, what we're doing over and over again, and also the first sort of high-level division of the map into different geographical areas. Sometimes I think of them as continents, if we were to map a real globe. We have got Europe, we have got Australia, and so on. But then what? Then that was your picture, right? Then it's not just about things on a map and things in one person's head. Of course, there are always people doing these things. So once you have kind of the core story, you can then start to see who are the ones that are working within these different sectors or parts of the map. What is it that they're doing? And you can sketch fairly quickly if you have agreed upon the sort of core story and the main areas of it. And this is not like you would have one map that is stable all the time. I mean, you learn. You will move things, you will figure out, and somebody will tell you that this is absolutely not how this works. But it is through the conversations with people around you that you could get to a somewhat stable geography by talking. And if you take the next one. So in our example today, we have this intersection railway company that we have been playing with in the intersection context for quite some time. And the story that we see, that we start with, is this, that the value flow or the steps is sort of to build a network, develop and market our products, operate the train service, learn and optimize, and then reflect and adapt our strategy. Kind of linear. But again, here we have the loop. So what we do is that we position these steps in this loop way. And then you see that we build a network, we develop our products, we operate the trains, we learn, and then we reflect on our strategy, and then we do it over again. So in this pace of constantly improving, we get another sense of this cyclic thinking, and also an ability to agree on the geography of our map. So that is how we would go about this. If you take the next one. And then, of course, like I did with the first drawing, now you press play, and then you start asking people, interacting with different people representing functions or organizational parts, or whatever, however you're sliced, and you will see whether the idea that you had about the core story, if it holds, or if there are other things that emerge when you do this mapping and build this knowledge through this map. And interact with people, because again, this cannot be one person sketching in a corner of the enterprise. This needs to be shared, and it needs to be something that we agree upon, and not as in, at least I would never do as in this is approved by. I would work with the people and make the relationships and see that I see what they are telling me, and they understand that I will sort of listen to what they see, and what the most important relations they see from their point of view will be honored in the map. So this is an intuitive, sort of an iterative, ongoing, long conversation. So it's not done in one workshop. It is a continuous work, and you're building trust, you're building knowledge, and hopefully as soon as possible you will start to also bring value with this map, so that people have an easier way of finding each other or understanding dependencies or whatever it could be on the table, for an easy one, for a fast sort of feedback and improvement. So now we have been sketching around, but there's more to this one, right, Milan?
Yeah, and I think you were touching upon some really interesting points and some critical points. So on this map, you see that our geography since the first sketch has shifted quite a lot, right? Yeah. So first we had these generic 5 steps. Now we have the new core story for intersection railways. So the positions shifted. We have what we call protagonists, right? So we have external protagonists that have a little black hat here, so people that are not working for intersection railways, and then we have internal ones, and they are interacting. And what we mean by press play is we depict that, right? We depict how they are working together. We have a little feedback loop here depicted, so you see on the map a little bit what's happening in the enterprise as it goes about its business. And important here is, well, it could be different, right? So again, this map is not claiming to be the ultimate truth, the ultimate process, the ultimate value chain, or anything like this. It is a way to map these people and what they are doing onto a circular geography. Yeah. It's not the only way, it's not the right way, because the purpose of the map is that people look at it again and again over some time and recognize what they are seeing. It could be the other way around. Things in the top could be in the bottom, but that's not the point, right? North is up. That's the convention. The goal is to establish this convention. So one thing also already, if you have only a 2-week assignment, don't make a geography, right? It's not worth it. But if you are trying to work with people over a longer period of time, make different people understand each other, then this kind of mapping can be really, really helpful.
And I also want to say something, because the core story is now depicted by icons or drawings instead of text. And that is another thing. It's way more open to have icons representing these areas than have text, because text is so defining and it kind of makes it more structured too early. So with these icons, we can have more open view to what's within each of these sectors. And that is also something I really want to stress, to be more inviting and finding more aspects of what we need to understand.
All right. Yeah. So let's look at what is depicted on the map. So far, we only have basically 2 edgy elements, if you know edgy, which is people and story. Let's look at what else we can map on this map and what we can depict. So this is our attempt to find our way around the mess and see what is actually in this galaxy that we are trying to map and how we can depict it. So if you don't know, Edgy is based on this model called the Enterprise Design Facets. It's 3 facets that correspond to these questions. Why are we here? Why do we exist? What's really important to us? That's our identity. And the bottom you have, what's our role in people's lives, in the lives of our customers, or maybe also other people? And what's the role we want to play? And on the top right, you have, how are we doing it? That's our architecture. Mm-hmm. So what our role is, our experience. And then they intersect. We have to, in order to do why we are here, fulfill our purpose, we have to organize ourselves as a team, so have an organization, which then leads to an architecture that works in terms of processes and operations and so on. And if that's successful, we make products. And if they are successful, they are really successful in people's experiences, and they will have a good idea of our identity, which is the brand, so our reflection of our identity in people's experiences. And if we break that down further, we get to the enterprise elements in Edgy. So there are 16 in total. And so far we used story, right? So it's this one here, in the identity. So how we make sense of our enterprise, how we contextualize information, like, for example, as a loop. And we had some people are everywhere on this map, right? And so now we are looking into how do the other Edgy elements fit into this, and what could we depict on the map if we broaden our vocabulary and talk about the other things, like our products, people's journeys, the channels they're using, the processes going on, or the way we organize.
Yeah. And no, you go. That's yours too. Sorry.
Okay. Just to give you one example how to use Edgy elements. So here we have one important person for intersection railways, which is our passenger. And they have a task. They want to reduce their carbon footprint, which is laudable. For that, they want to use a product that produces less CO2. And we have one in intersection railways, which is our night train. That's great. And they use some third-party channel, like some app, maybe like Trainline or Google or Kayak or something. So we don't even control that channel, right? But it's part of the structure of our enterprise that we have to look into because our customers are using it. And we also require a capability, a lot of them actually, but here's just one highlighted. We want to report the CO2 that this product produces. And that capability is owned by our CSR team, and it requires certain assets, like we need renewable energy and track it. We need this energy manager, and we need a process, submit this report. And all of that is in service of our purpose. One of our purposes, which is we also want to reduce our carbon footprint, which is great. It's a rare alignment of what customers want and what we want. And so how can we start using this on the map? And we will start with the first of 3 mapping strategies, which is we start at the end here. We start mapping the enterprise from the inside out, from the operations, what's going on, and see if we can map that onto the Milky Way.
Yeah. And this is the technique that I've been using all along, since I'm an architect and I really am sort of fluent in capability thinking. But this is sort of to strengthen the idea of the loop and the different sectors. And if we start with where we meet the customers, this is kind of where we get our energy. And that will be in the top right area, sort of the product and service delivery. Exactly, the marketing and sales. So this is where we first encounter our customers with the product portfolios and the different sort of ways of packaging our products, the brands and everything. And then we see how we do the marketing, how we do the sales. And then we sort of also have to, of course, we need to manage the capacity and the booking. And then you move yourself to the service delivery, which is where we deliver the service that the customers have been bought from us And we also need to have the sort of underlying internal delivery enabling capabilities to sort of underpin the service delivery. And of course, before we can deliver anything, we need to prepare for the delivery. And then there most likely will be some deviation handling in the delivery stage. And you also see that there is one capability sort of capturing the customer communication enabling thingy, whether that is the chat, the app that you spoke about, Milan, or if we have something for sort of for us to use when we work with deviations or delays or offerings or whatever. So these are, even though I'm talking about this railway example, I'm always, like when I do these type of maps, having this sort of way of approaching an area to begin with. So you first, what is it that we're offering? How are we offering it? How are we delivering the service? And then we move into the operational and commercial analysis. That's kind of a placeholder for how do we learn based upon how well we delivered, how well our products and services were received, how well we internally are able to retain employees or have good circumstances in our teams or whatever we're looking at. And once we sort of have this delivery part, then we need to go into the sector at 6 o'clock in this map. And that has to do with our ability to look at what did we have as an intention with our strategic portfolio of both our products and our internal resources and structures when we began and released new things, and how well did we meet those things. And then we need to do some thinking here. Should we continue with what we're doing, or should we try something else? And then that would result in an updated strategic portfolio that we then sort of have a direction in, and that will then kick off the sort of improvement of our offerings or our internal ways of working. So there will be development of change. What type of change, on this level we don't really know, but this is really an important ability to be able to sort of work with. And then once we have developed something, we come to a crucial thing, which is the introduction of the new things. And that could be done sort of towards the market or towards our own organizations with new ways of working and so on. And connected to that is most likely some planning on operational level of how are we able to sort of take on the next period of time that we're scheduling. And depending on what type of organization you are, you have different planning horizons. And now we're back again at sort of where we started with this. We hopefully have some new products and services to market, and hopefully with a better internal efficiency or better ways of working. So we might have a better price or a higher sort of expectation on the customer experience, thanks to improvements that we have done. And this way of walking ourselves through the map and the different sectors and identifying what are the core things that we are after in each sector and how they are tied together is really a core thing when you want to do the Milky Way mapping, because it's not just random capabilities sort of placed in different places. It's really a system of capabilities intertwined and strengthening each other in a very specific way, sort of following a value flow or maturity or improvements of both our offerings, but also the way we work as an enterprise from the inside. So it's another purpose of what capabilities we're choosing to highlight in a map like this compared to maybe other ways of working with capability maps. Here we really want to strengthen the different steps in the core story. Good. And when you sort of have established this, then you can't work on everything at the same time. So the natural step will be then to dive into the most prioritized area, in this case, the sort of connections towards the customers in the marketing and sales situation, and see how can we improve that and kind of zoom in. And then it would be, with this way of thinking in the Milky Way, it's really, really hard to make something good in one sector without understanding what the sector before is sort of providing and what the sector after is needing in order for them to do their job as good as possible. So this sort of holistic way of looking at not everything, but at least the largest context is a vital part when you do this type of mapping. But we're not only in the capabilities, because we want to have other aspects shown as well, right, Milan?
Yes. So what you see here is basically a few things. So we started using capabilities, right, as an edgy element, and we have here our protagonists from before.
Oh yeah, they came back. Well,
we also still have our story here. So yeah, because the protagonists are basically people that appear in the story, but it's also people that we talk to when building the map. And as Annika said, we are focusing on the sector here, so we are talking mostly to these people right now, including our customers and so on, to understand what's going on here. And the rest is there as context to visualize what happens before, what happens after, because we don't do this in a silo or in a void. We also have here our core story, which now is a bit formulated a bit more to be more engaging, right? So we build a leading infrastructure. We play to win in green mobility. You might know these kind of claims. We deliver unmatched reliability and comfort and continuously learn and innovate. But it's at its core still the same story, just a bit more storytelling in there. And we switched from making sketches to using the sticky note depiction of edgy, which is something we recommend as we go from establishing a first geography to working together on a whiteboard, virtual or in reality, to figure out how to adapt the geography to the enterprise. But yeah, then we might not look only from the inside out. Let's shift to a different perspective and look at from the outside in. So here we don't ask what do we need to do. We ask what do they want from us? What do they want to do? Hopefully with our help. So here we have a journey with some tasks. We have two different passenger types: a vacation passenger and a business passenger. And then we have encoded here some tasks that and some journey that they are going through from end to end. And you see that customers and other external protagonists, usually they are snaking around the enterprise, right? So they are coming in at some point, they might use our services and then go out, and hopefully they come back. And so this is a journey map like I've seen many times, just round, right? So everything is going well. Having worked with a train company before, I know that the real test for good customer experience is when what we called a degraded service level occurs. So
nice word for being late.
Yes. So I mean, hopefully it's just late. So yeah. So there we have some markers here marking where things could go wrong. Or recovering and gracefully relieving customer pains as they waiting, as they are hungry, as they miss their connections and so on, have no seat. And so this is for me where the Milky Way really has a strength compared to, I don't know, journey maps or service blueprints, because now we can look into what the enterprise is doing as the customers go through this, right? So we see what are the capabilities in touch with the customer, what is happening before, what is happening after, how are these things connected. And in an outside-in strategy, you might not want to look at this in a lot of detail in the beginning, especially if you're maybe working as a service designer or experience designer or product designer. But you have your customers here. You might add another one here because our company is also serving freight. And then you have the capabilities, the architecture as a context. You also have the purposes as a context. And you can make these slices. In France, I often say it's a camembert slice. So you can see, okay, so we have trouble with our booking a ticket. Okay, of course, it's the sales capability that is connected to accounting. What do we want there? We want to have these leading green travel products. In that context, what is the problem really with sales? What is the challenge? And what is the design challenge that we want to tackle there, given everything the enterprise is doing and wants to do, in touch with the customers and what they want to do on, 10 o'clock of our map. And these are exactly the conversations that we want to have using the Milky Way rather than isolated maps that are still there. It's just the geography actually adds this context. And to close the loop, so we now looked at the enterprise from an experience point of view, outside in. We looked at it from an architecture point of view, inside out. If you're working with senior management or with management in any sort of capacity, the more natural starting point might be the ambition of the enterprise. So what matters to us? So here's an example of the east of our Milky Way. So talking to these people like train operators, research and development, market analytics, investment, and so on, innovation, what matters to you? And we can map them with the enterprise element purpose from the edgy vocabulary. So train operations really wants to minimize disruption impact, while research wants to build real-time data assets, whatever that means, and look at future trends. Our enterprise designers here want more collaboration, and the investors want to minimize risks. So we map at who wants what as we go through our core story along the Milky Way. And then if we tie all of that together and we look at an ambition-driven Milky Way, but that includes also the other facets as context. So we get here, for example, we want to preserve the environment. We looked at that before. Therefore, we need to reduce our carbon footprint. Therefore, we need to adapt to the service status, like, for example, traffic volume. We need to recover from exceptions and incidents, and so on. So we can make these connections. We can say, what does it mean preserving the environment when our service is degraded? Should we get electric buses? Should we ignore it because it's not important anymore? And again, these are the discussions that we need to have in light of the capabilities that are operationally impacted by this discussion or considerations, and also the customer task, the customer journey, the impact on them. And see the big picture, see what's going on and what might be going on. So which mapping strategy to use depends on, I guess, who you are and who you are talking to. If we tie everything together, it might actually at some point look like this, rather messy.
Depending how trained you are in the map, I'd say.
Yes.
Yeah. Sort of this one is you could say that when you work with these maps, the experience that I have working with this over time, you learn. And then at a certain point, you come to some insight that what you expected or what you thought in the core story wasn't really the way either it functioned in reality or the most optimal way of doing it. So you might want to introduce some changes into this. So when we look at especially the capabilities that are mapped in here, you see that the capabilities are connected. I don't think they were in the earlier versions of the map, but here there is this really sort of deliberate way of looking at how do we connect the capabilities so they strengthen each other, and where do we make sure that they're not connected? Because if they were connected, things would go slower. So it's this. Like we say when we talk about capabilities, you can slice them and sort of define them using different parameters. And when I do these mapping, I would start with the questions that I shared with you before. First, sort of what is going on? What is the core story? What are the main capability areas, you could say, in a high level that we have in our map? The next step I would look at what is it that is sort of flowing through our enterprise. And in this case, in the railway example, we have products, but we also have a lot of assets and networks. And they are very different. They sort of loop with different pace. I mean, products are potentially released in new versions maybe every season. You would have a summer timetable and summer ticket deals, and then you would have something for the autumn, and then potentially something for the Christmas, I don't know. But when you deal with assets and networks, is way slower in the sort of the pace and the delivery. You do not do a new railway network every half year. That takes years. But they are connected. So as you can see in the lower left part of this one, we have divided it into one stream, the other one. Now you need to use the cursor exactly. One sort of value flow for the products, in how we initiate product development. We do development, and then we do introduction of products. And then in the inner line, we have the flow for the assets and networks. And it would not be a good idea to create an organization that is both working with products and assets and networks and tightly couple them together, because they are working with different paces, and they are not really, of course they're connected, but they are not strengthening each other. They would most likely slow each other down. But in this case, potentially a case from reality but now we're telling a story of it. There could be challenges when you introduce new products and new assets or new types of networks that will have implication on timetables maybe. So there is potentially a really good value to connect the capabilities working with introduction or change. So maybe that is something that intersection would benefit from, having that in a closer sort of connection. I don't know if it's an organization or if it's tightly communicating different things and having maybe a shared time plan for how these changes would go on. So that would be something sort of a next level of exploring what these capabilities are and how we want to slice them. And then moving on, you could see here that we haven't put that much effort into the right side, where we have like one capability of stating service delivery, which is everything in this case from the coffee in the restaurant to the transportation from A to B. So that is in this map something we would need to explore more, but maybe for the sake of the task that we had, that side is good enough, but we can dive into the left side if we want. So this is sort of an emerging way of mapping and allowing ourselves to use this technique in showing what is of interest and what we kind of can hide, because we do not need to have all the knowledge about it, but we need to know that it's there. So just a little sneak peek on how you can sort of explore from different aspects. And here I can only urge you to explore and see what works in your organization. But from my experience, a good way is to see if you can slice the values flow into more sort of smaller parts, and not do every development as a chunk, but rather look at what are you developing. And of course, take help from both the core story and the purpose, and the customer tasks, guiding you to understand what's important, what is it really that we need to improve in order for us to be relevant in the market going forward. A short thing. I mean, these are techniques that you could spend so much time on sharing, but just so that you get a glimpse of the choices you can make and how you can iterate this so it fits for your purpose.
Yeah,
and
you see here that products are just implied, actually. Edgy users will recognize the color. So it's really just this connection between capabilities enabling a product, like marketing campaigns, making people dream of far away, which is their task. And so products are maybe not the focus here, but they are on the map as context.
Exactly.
Good. Looking at the time, moving on. Now we want to map our galaxy, right?
Yes.
And so, or rather show you how to map your galaxy and upgrade to this galaxy class map that we talked about. And your map, might depict, whatever you want to depict. This is an actual map of the galaxy according to someone, right? And it serves a purpose. There's a lot of critique, I can tell you, on a lot of fan sites. They're saying, no, it can't be like this because of episode 3 in the first season of the original series or something. But, this map was, I think, someone's dream to make. And so with the Milky Way, we would invite you also to look at what is it really that you want to map, and what is the dream map that you want to create, and then discuss about or argue about with people in and around your enterprise. And so I think Annika did that.
I did that. Yes. So these are examples of maps that we are using at Scania. And this is sort of a way of depicting how we meet customers on the left side, how we do the production of our products in all our in our entire industrial network, and then how the customers are using their products at kind of 5 o'clock. And then you have the gap where we would make analysis on what are the sort of feedback and things that we're getting, and then we kick off development, sort of improving the value proposition through concept development, and then introduction. But the thing with this map is that we, apart from having capabilities and the geography and the flows and everything, we also have added icons. So instead of boxes, we have icons telling stories within themselves. Just by looking at them, you would get kind of an idea what's going on, but also getting the sort of overarching story of how they're interacting as well. And this is but this is one of the differences with how capability maps usually are depict, is that it is the boxes, it's the capabilities that you show. But here we put as much emphasis on the relationship between the capabilities, because they tell about the dynamics of the system that we have. So it's the way we are able to do this, thanks to my fantastic colleague, Frederick, who does these sort of graphical, small little designs of these things. We are able to capture so much knowledge in the map that you can depict just by looking at it. So we have people looking at these maps and just standing for minutes or longer, and just recognize where they are and how things are connected. Because thanks to this way of designing the visuals, we can carry so much knowledge. And it's almost that we have been able to sort of have it a graphical language, hieroglyphs. Sometimes people say that we have, because there's so much in here that is reoccurring. I don't know. I don't have any good examples on the top of my head, but there are things, small little icons reoccurring in different places, referencing each other just by the visual form.
Yeah, and so just to not discourage you, but encourage you. We also made one for intersection railways, but we didn't have Frederick. It was just me with the standard Miro icon set from the wireframe tab. But you see here that, for example, all the resource management for machines, for people, for material have the same icon, like have this little house. And there are arrows to depict what is actually flowing between these capabilities. How are they serving the customer journey? How are they helping us pursuing our goal, our purpose, as we go into this part of the story? And you see also here that the emphasis was obviously in the west of the map, so developing products and infrastructure, not so much in the learning and following up part. There's a lot of detail missing here, which is also something that we invite you to embrace. So both of these maps, we think, can have a kind of or they're going after a where is Waldo effect, as I call it. So people look at this, it looks good, it looks cool. They're like, where am I? What is this? How is this connected? And so then we can start using the map as I think, Katharina, you asked in workshops. So, for example, because once you have the geography established and people have seen it a few times and know more or less where they are, where other people are, and which position means, you can say, you know what, we are spending a lot of money here and not a lot of money up there where we meet the customer. Is that good? Is that aligned with what we say in our purposes? Should it be different? And you see that the focus really shifts from the details to the geography.
Yeah.
Where are things happening?
And there are some questions in the chat regarding the detail levels. And we have sort of gotten the feedback that people get a headache when they see the detailed Scania version of the map. So we have made aggregations. sort of depicting the same areas but on a higher level, just to sort of get it a bit more quiet so you can understand the larger scale of it. But we're very, very sort of clear with using the same boundaries that we have in the detailed map. Otherwise, we lose track of where we are. So there is a zoom in and zoom out level. But I think that what you're showing here is really, really interesting because, it's telling when you combine money with and change with strategy. Sometimes it's not
Let's add the
really
project.
exactly. Yeah. And just a view like this could be worth quite a lot to get insight on where we actually spend our efforts and our heavy investments.
Yeah. So this is based on a true story, I think. This, where suddenly all projects were focused on one area and no one expected that.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of management level, I would say, of the Milky Way, where the map really becomes the context for these discussions, and then it's about the high level view. If we look at a meeting, for example, with a different target group, here we have a new product being introduced, our night train, because let's assume we don't have that yet. Which are the capabilities implicated? How does the nice breakfast actually get on board the train? How can people book them? What kind of products do they use? Who in the organization is involved in delivering this product? And you see that here the map shifts from a heat map or area highlighting to more of a routing. So what is the path that this product will follow? And we want maybe to keep that in sync with a service blueprint or several service blueprints or business model canvases or something like that. Again, not to replace them, but to enhance them with the geographical view and the context. This is also, I think, a classic. Here we are just mapping the organizational units on top of the map. So who is responsible for what? There might be people responsible for capabilities, for purposes, or even for steps in the customer journey, ideally. There might be people popping up on several places on the map, like customer experience here, and that's fine if that's reality. That's it's the protagonist in the story, and this is basically mapped to the org chart. And then I think also you asked about processes. So here's an example. Glad I included that of a process where we plan our infrastructure, our operational and strategic one. We budget, we plan a track, we build a track, and we maintain it. And so we can trace this process as it goes, as it looks on the map. You see here that it doesn't look exactly the same because it looks more like a loop or like a two-directed kind of double arrow here and here. And so this would be something for discussion. Is this actually happening in parallel? And will we get into trouble as all these assets that are being used along this process will be phased out, especially this math lob is somehow rated bad. So we might have a problem in this area of the process. And I don't think it makes sense to take a complete process architecture and try to translate it into the map. That's not the point, right, Annika? It's more like see how we can show some routes to see if these processes are actually in sync, in tune with the map, or if not, then there must be a reason. Either what we learned while mapping is inaccurate, or the process models are actually inaccurate. They might have just been created to get an ISO certificate.
There was a question in the chat, I don't remember who, but sort of if I already have material, how do I use it? And I would say use it as sort of something at the back of the mind, but do not put it too much into the new one. I would really ask the questions that I had in my first version of the architectural sort of little skeleton I sometimes talk about. It's this idea of how do we meet the customer, how do we deliver, how do we do these different things, and then you can take on material from what's already there. But it's most likely the process models and the other ones are sliced in another logic, so it will be weird. They will not fit immediately. Yeah, and then this is a thing of moving from these insights to actually something that we can act upon. So this is a very sort of simplified view of a sort of a heat map on today, and then a sort of an ambition for a heat map in 2 years' time. Or 3 years' time, how well do we want to perform in these different areas? And that will then inform what we need to address in our change initiatives going forward. And there will be some clear signals that potentially the red area down to the left will not be addressed. That will be kept as it is. So if you're in that area, you're not going to get any changes sort of through this system. And there is something interesting that we're doing right now at Scania, that is taking these type of maps and then transforming them into roadmap areas, and then something that is a change portfolio, but still using the same logic. And that is really an interesting way of how we can find the time aspects in a more deliverable sort of format when it comes to, I mean, we work in this agile way of working with this sort of teams and all of that. And it's really playing out nicely when we have the map and the structures, the capability as a basis. So that could be something for the next webinar if you guys are interested. But it's really sort of get the overview, get the understanding of what's going on, and try to have everything in one map. And it's not that you have every detail, but you have the most important connections. Exactly, and that was walk over to you.
So you might have a lot of other maps, and the idea is really to use this Milky Way as a connector, right? So it connects those views, and it only has the details that you need on this geography for these discussions, and you keep the other things in sync. It is also positioned on this continuum from this excellent book, Visualizing Business Transformation, between the communities of people and change and technology implementation, plain in the middle, I would say. So it's not good at any of these extremes. Use Archimate and UML for the technical people, use photos and storyboards for the other people, but you can use the Milky Way to connect these things. And on the right, you have some books about that, including Edgy. The Milky Way hopefully will be released soon as an Edgy tool. We are working on that. If you want to learn more about Edgy, join our upcoming course in January. Join our conference in Brussels in September. And if you want to get started using this and want to partner with us, this is an open invite as well. All of this is part of our not-for-profit association, Making Edgy, running communities, making publications. And that's basically it for today.
Great, we made it on time. And thank you for all the comments in the chat. I really we're looking at it, and when we close down, do we get to keep the chat, Milan, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah, because
we get to keep it.
Yeah.
Please join us on our Slack if you would like to get started with this or continue the discussion. And you will get the slides also, and the recording will also be available. And thank you for joining today, and thank you, Annika, for doing this.
And like you said, reach out in the chat, or we are on LinkedIn and everything. It's really always so interesting to see if something catches and if you are able to make use of it. And also, thank you very much for joining. I need to run. I have another thing going on at 10.
Business calls.
Yeah. But right. I've so enjoyed this. So thank you for attending, and I hope to see you out there. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.